Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see everyone here. Diane, do we have quorum? Yes, we do. Okay. Thank you. I will look for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Sally. Second. Thank you, Ken. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, this is start of the new fall season, and we have new faces around the table. So I think it would be needless to all of us to state who we are and what our position is, or how we happen to come onto this board, if you would. So I'll start with myself. I'm Dee Vanderhoff from Iowa City. I have been a long-time workforce development person as an elected official, city councilor in Iowa City for 12 years. So that's what brings me here with my appointment 4 years ago.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ed Wallace, and I'm Deputy Director of Iowa Workforce Development.
I'm Diane Oakley, Iowa Workforce Development. Lisa Castillo, Iowa Workforce Development.
Senator Bill Datzler.
Steve Oval with Kirkwood Community College, representing as an ex-officio member representing our state community college system.
Roger Edmond with the Iowa Department of Education.
Sally Bob with the Owine Chamber and Area Development.
Francis Jenner with the Communication Workers of America.
Robert Gilmore with the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades.
Ken Say with the Iowa Federation of Labor, representing labor.
Jean Logan. I'm the director for the Community Action Agency of Siouxland. I represent nonprofits.
State Representative Ron Jorgensen from Sioux City.
Rita Grimm, Heide Law Firm, Sioux City, representing employers.
Drew Conrad, Institute for Decision Making in the Town of Iowa, representing the region.
Ken Anderson, Marshalltown Chamber of Commerce, representing employers.
Rear Assistant State Director with the Office of Friendship.
Teresa Whaler, Director, Iowa Workforce Development.
Joe Burbitt, Legal Counsel with Workforce Development.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome. I'm happy to see the... Oh, yes. Thank you. Online for the meeting, anyone want to state your name that you're online? No one on the conference call. Go back down the line over here. I guess we'll start at this end if you would, please.
Workforce Development. John Nelson, Iowa Workforce Development. Nick Olencia, Iowa Workforce Development.
Lori Adams, Iowa Workforce Development. Carrie Coons, Iowa Workforce Development.
Gary Bateman, Iowa Workforce Development.
Barbara Bob, Iowa Workforce Development.
Carol Paulus, Workforce Development. I work with the Workforce Investment Act and Trademarks.
Mary Lou Woods, Bureau Chief, Iowa Workforce Development. Heidi Wicks, Iowa Workforce Development.
Deb Shepherd, Workforce Development.
Paul Michelson, Iowa Workforce Development.
Kelly Taylor, Iowa Workforce Development.
Louis Vandershake, House Republican, Caucus staff.
Sue Becker with the Senate Democratic staff.
Joe Gilly, House Democratic staff.
Mark French, Workforce Development.
Mike Wilkinson, IWD, UI Division Administrator.
Sue Gibbons, I'm the Director of the Workforce Investment Board in Central Iowa.
I'm Karen Hornbach, Department on Aging, and I manage training programs for the...
Thank you. We have a large group today. I'm looking for approval of the minutes for May 6th and July 29th. On the May 6th, we saw probably a typo, but at the bottom of the minutes, it says the next meeting would be November 30, and it should be...
No, it said November 20th, and
20, and it should be 30.
The 20th is a Sunday, so we think all of you probably want to come and meet with us then. So, yeah, that was an error. I apologize.
And the second one would be May 16th which is a Wednesday, not a Thursday.
And those corrections have already been made on the minutes that are posted on the web. And we'll make sure that they are corrected elsewhere too.
So I'll entertain a motion with those corrections.
Well,
Thank you, Ken.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jean. Any comments otherwise? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Motion carries. Okay, Mary Lou, would you give us an update on integration? Oh, yes.
Madam Chair, I have to leave early today because I have a conflict, and I'm really interested in hearing about the role of the State Workforce Development Board. I see that that's the last thing on our agenda. Would it be possible to move it up sometime in the next hour?
We've done this prior to approval of the agenda.
Do you have a motion on the agenda? There was a motion on the agenda. Oh, okay. All right, so we're not moving it up.
Let's see what we can do.
All right.
Good morning. I am thrilled to say we have opened another integrated office. And as in August, we opened Decorah, and we had an open house on September 13th. We had over 200 people attend. It's in a new location, and very, very positive response back. We're also in the process of, and I know a couple of people will be on board, because they're very interested, in Sioux City. We are we're in the second week of integration launch training, and we will be launching that location on the 14th of October. I'd like to invite anybody on the board that wants to attend to come. We are also planning an open house at some point. We just don't have a time frame yet determined. Carol, we have actually got the remodel completed as of this week. We are putting that on hold for the minute. We have some staffing concerns, so we want to do it right, so we're going to get those corrected first, and then we'll get that on the schedule. Ottumwa, we are slated to have the actual remodel done at the end of January. So we're looking, training usually takes around 6 to 8 weeks to do integration. So we're looking at sometime in March or April at this point, depending on how we can juggle training around spring break. Spencer, we're still looking at that location. We intend to stay where we are. We have a floor plan, and it has already been submitted to the landlord. They are reviewing it. It's Clay County, and they are in the process of getting estimates, and we hope to have that done sometime. I'm hoping after Ottumwa at this point, but we don't know for sure. Marshalltown, we are hoping to stay where we are. And that landlord is Iowa Valley Community College. We have a meeting next week to talk about the proposal. We have gone through 2 revisions of that floor plan, and we hope to have that tentatively, and at least where I'm scheduling it, is summer of next year. Davenport, this is the one we've gone around and around about. We finally have figured out how to get everybody in if they just don't breathe in the current location. But anyway, we are in the process. We're in revision 2 of that one, and we are scheduled to have a discussion next week on that. If that gets approved, we will then go back to the landlord and see if we can get estimates on that. So that takes care of everything in House File 2699 for it to be integrated by the end of next year. So we are on target. And yes.
That was changed to the end of 2014.
Oh, okay. Okay, so anyway, we may beat the deadline, which would be great. Anyway, I have handed out to you the 2 reports that we normally provide you. The first one is the cumulative membership stats. We have them not only for everyone that is enrolled in the integrated offices. I also gave you the versions of our new Iowans, of WIA, of older workers, as well as veterans. I also added another page to the digital literacy report. Normally I just provide you the overall one, There's also one there for equal opportunity, so I thought you might like to see that as well, so I provided that one. Harvey likes to have that one, so I gave you his special version. Mystery member and evaluation 1.0. This is something that has been on my list for quite a while. We're finally getting it worked up to the top. It is, once you implement integration, of course when I go out, they always implement the model beautifully. Everything's perfect. They do all the triage questions. Everything's gorgeous. But I'm never sure when I'm not there how it's really doing. So we started doing just what we call mystery members. And we had the leadership, not in their office, but in other offices, go in, act like they were a customer, and we wanted to see how, if they were invited into membership, if they had all the points of the model. And so we went through that. We've gone through 2 trial mystery member shoppings. We went back and reviewed those stats, and now we are going to implement it on a regular basis. The program coordinators are going to also be helping us, so we are starting that probably next spring, but we'll continue to do some trial mystery shops during the fall. How to get a job in a tough economy. It's a brand new workshop curriculum, and I don't care if you want to add anything more to it other than we have done train the trainer classes this week. We had for 2 days. And we have asked them to start implementing it in the integrated offices only at this point. It has been a very big concern of mine since I took this position that we did not have consistency and quality across the centers and across the state. So this is our first step to do that. We had great workshop curriculum, but we weren't sure if the resume class in Dubuque was the same as the resume class in Des Moines, and I wanted to make sure that we delivered equal opportunities to all. So this is our first step. We also have a second step, and that is that due to the challenge in staffing, we are going to make sure that the workshop covers all the needs of all the different programs. Again, an integrated answer. So we're going to incorporate promised jobs, we're going to incorporate all res, all of them. We're going to try to bring them all together so that whatever trainer is available will be able to provide that, whatever the needs are for that program in that workshop. Burlington, one of the programs we hadn't really incorporated in integration, but it was on our list, and that is Promised Jobs. We have been piloting it in Burlington, had very, very good response. I have explained to you, I think in the past, about the initial service plans. We have 3 different initial service plans in integration, one of which is called Employment Express, which is people that are job ready. And we really copied that plan and did Promised Jobs. We're in the process of having to discuss the different forms with DHS. When we get an approval, we will then roll it out to the other offices that are integrated. So that's kind of, Heidi and I kind of have it pegged for fall and spring of next year. And the last thing is Focus Career, which is a new software for a resume. In the past, the resume that we provided in Iowa Jobs was really not sufficient to our needs, particularly since we've gone into integration. Integration is very skills focused, and the resume was really almost just a profile. It didn't really provide the information that an employer needed and to help a job seeker be successful. So we wanted to point it towards skills. So we now have what we call Focus Career. It's from a vendor called Burning Glass. And it just asks you a series of questions, and it creates a resume for you, which you can edit and save in Word. It's transportable, so it's a very, very good product. We launched that on September 19th. There is the employer piece to that. It has not been rolled out yet because we want to make sure that we have the job seeker piece done. So we have been very busy, and I'll answer any questions. That was easy.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Moving along, we have Carol Paulus with the real recording.
I think all of you have a copy of the draft of the WIA annual report. What we need is a motion that you approve this. I just wanted to give you a highlight. We're still working on it. It's not due until Monday. I think the narrative is pretty much complete. We've now given some grammatical and formatting corrections, but we're still doing the statistic piece. And so I just wanted to share with you a couple of things. In the adult program, we served the 46,404 participants, and the average cost per participant in that program was $60, which is due to the innovation service delivery model. For the dislocated workers, we served 18,344 at an average cost of $252 a person. Now, the youth program has not been integrated, and so we served 1,449 youth at the average cost of $2,976. So that's kind of the return on investment for the workforce investment dollars. So I thought you might like to see that. Did you have any questions about the report as you look through it? Some of the things for me, the highlights this year, were the transition centers that we developed for the job and rail workers in Sioux City. If you have not had a chance to see that and the services that they offer, it is unbelievable. It's such a diverse population with such diverse needs, and they have been able to meet them thanks to Jean Logan and her staff and the WIT staff. I mean, they have done an outstanding job. We also opened transition centers in Lancaster City and Jefferson for the electrical workers. And that grant, we got a supplemental national emergency grant. Some of this is in your report, but these are the things we've worked really hard on this year. That grant was to serve, I think, about 400 and some individuals for Electrolux, and we're now at 710. So it really worked hard. The other focus we had this year was on the youth advisory councils. That's kind of become a little dormant piece of the Workforce Investment Act. And being an old youth worker, it was important to me and to our staff that we revive that. So the youth staff actually put together a toolkit for the Youth Advisory Council so that we can get those back up and running and be a part of the workforce system in regional areas. So for me, those are the highlights. Did you have any questions? Yes.
Carol, a few years ago there was a teen center here in Des Moines that was specific to the young people to go in and perhaps get services. Remember that?
Might have been before my time. I'm not familiar with that now. Do you think it was in the workforce center? I know at one time they.
Well, it was like as I recall, it was down in the village, a separate building, because it was more inviting to bring the young people in, where they had young people also helping.
I guess I'm not familiar with that. Do you know anything about that, Mike? Was that under your
No, ICHS started up a center for GED and for folks that had kids that had dropped out.
The re-engagement center.
Re-engagement center, but right.
So.
Yeah.
Is that it? Re-engagement?
That must be what I'm thinking.
Maybe that's what you're
about.
thinking of.
That's not open any longer due to a lack of funding. But it was a great concept, and it did serve a lot of people.
Yes, and I know West Coast had several of those that were going great guns, and it was also a job producing thing for young people who did mentoring within the center and so forth. Okay, thank you. I like the concept, but I haven't heard anything about it, so that's why it's not there anymore. I need to get reappointed, I guess. Any other questions for Carol?
Just leave it open, that you approve it, so we can send it.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the RIA annual report. So moved. Thank you, Rita. For a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sally.
I think, didn't you say something about changing, there would be some modification to this, Carol?
Carol, we have a question here.
We are voting for approval of this. What modifications are you expecting? Did you say?
The only thing that will happen, the only thing is there's like 10 grammatical errors in there that have been corrected off of your copy. And then the performance piece, which is the statistical data, they're still working on that. So what you see, I think when you got your copies, we sent you copies of the performance report, and we can send those to you. It doesn't have anything for skill attainment on it because of the move to iWorks. We lost some data, and so Michaela didn't want to send it out until she cleaned it up. So that's what you don't have, but as soon as she gets that done, I'll get that to Diane and you'll get a copy. So it'll just be the performance piece, the statistics.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ken?
Yeah, there's a lot of great data in here, and to be honest, I haven't been able to get through it. I don't know what everybody else got their copy, but a day isn't exactly enough time to review this. That's a little bit of a problem for me because I think as a board, you know, if you're going to serve on a board, you got to review the information and make informed decisions. I don't feel I can do that because I didn't have the information in time to review it.
I can agree. We had some mix-up with Fed Express and so forth. So I got my packet yesterday about 2 o'clock.
That's when I got my packet as well, yesterday afternoon about 4.
Okay. Anyone else get theirs later?
I got mine on Wednesday.
I just got mine today, but I apologize because I was at the Mayo Clinic for a couple of days, so I have not been able to read my packet, and I apologize.
Should we have a conference call on Monday for that? And help people, give people time to look through it, and we can have a teleconference and see what your questions are or might be, and do final approval at that time.
What's your pleasure? Ken?
At least it gives us enough time to read through the document.
Okay.
I'd move we table the motion till conference call on Monday.
Awesome. Thank you, Francis. I have motion to table. Is there a second?
I would second.
All right, there's a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll table this item and we'll set up a conference call. What's best for you folks, morning or afternoon?
My suggestion would be just to set the meeting because you're not going to catch everybody anyway, but
We just
the
have to-
majority, whatever times.
Just set a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be better for us in the morning because we have to submit it during the day, depending on if
Sure.
we make any changes. So maybe we can set it for, what, 10 o'clock, 9:30?
Okay. We'll send out a notice what time that is with phone numbers and so forth.
Our teacher code is trying to get on, and he said that he's having trouble, so I'm just gonna read out a phone again, I apologize.
I think we need to vote on table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is tabled.
Can I interject just a second? Did everybody get their FedEx packets on Wednesday? Or did nobody get them on Tuesday? Let's put it that way.
I got mine Tuesday.
You did get yours Tuesday, because they went out Monday overnight, so they should have gotten everybody on Tuesday. So if they didn't, we need to follow up and get some reimbursement from the state of FedEx. That's what I, yours was Wednesday. So it sounds like only 1 or 2 of you got them on Tuesday. And
Thank you
everybody
for
else
using the ICN conferencing service. Enter your conference code.
Carried. There also was some.
Thank you. If you are the latest press,
No,
go
they don't
now.
think yours is this. We know that. We can't figure that part out.
Sorry.
It's, we've been there a while.
State your name, followed by the pound or hashtag.
Yeah.
Thank you. The leader has not yet arrived. Please stand by.
I know that the packets went out on Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, because I was there when the FedEx guy came, picked them up, so at least I feel confident about that part of it.
We'll work that.
Yeah. That's my access code.
Thank you for using the ICN conferencing service. Enter your conference code, followed by the pound or hash sign. Thank you. If you are the leader, press star now. Please enter your leader. To start or join your conference, press 1. After the tone, state your name, followed by the pound or hash sign. Thank you. You will now be placed in the conference. To mute your line, press star 6. To unmute, press pound 6.
Dave, can you get in now?
They'll have to redial.
I think Joe was calling you back here to ask him to redial.
Okay. Let's just wait a minute and see if he gets online. Dave, are you there now? Well, welcome. Okay. And you got Region 10 all taken care of?
It's $1 a piece, so.
Okay. And did you get Region 10 taken care of?
I'm moving forward with that new roof inside of town.
Okay. Oh, yes. Dave, we had enough packets that did not arrive until yesterday that we have tabled until Monday morning conference call the approval of the WIA annual report.
Okay.
So I hope you can call in on that one too.
Give it a 10, I sure will.
Okay, thanks. Okay, moving right along, we have a program here from, no, it isn't what I thought, virtual access points. Ed, you and Lori are going to do this one together.
Good morning, everybody. Let's go right through our information that we care to share on the virtual access points technology that we're employing across the state. Lori and I are going to go kind of tandem back and forth on a number of these items. I'm very happy to inform the board that at this point in time we have 209 access points across the state, and that encompasses 674 computers with the technology on it. And at this time, we have over 900 potential additions to our virtual access point technology. In other words, we have 900 folks that we've either reached out to or have reached out to us to install this technology. It is our goal to have 500 access points by the end of this calendar year. I believe that that's a very accomplishable goal. I think at our last meeting we talked a little bit about some of the IWD stakeholders and their experience with the technology. I'm happy to report that we've made quite a bit of progress with our librarians. Just recently I toured a series of meetings with the Iowa Library Association, Iowa Library Services, and spoke to librarians in Storm Lake, Mason City, Urbandale, and Preston. As you all know, we have 544 libraries in the state of Iowa, and we're doing all we can to make sure that all of our librarians have the most up-to-date information and the ability to install the technology in their libraries and utilize it. We've made a lot of inroads. Mary Wagner has been very helpful, and I continue to hope that we can work with them on installing the technology. If you look in your packet, you've got a access point document that gives you an idea of where we're at right now, and you'll see a couple hundred libraries on there. Many of them have already been installed. Some of them have yet to be installed, but we're adding dozens of new sites a week, and we get quite a few inquiries from libraries on a daily basis. So I'm very pleased with that progress.
I do want to point out also in your packet, you have a map that shows the locations of the access points. The star is the one-stop. It's got a circle around it. The red dots indicate where we currently have access point installations. Our IT shop is currently working on an interactive map that a customer would be able to type in their zip code, and then it would come up and tell them which access points are available in their location. And I know Gary's here. Any timeline on when we might expect to see that product?
Soon.
Okay. You're going ready for office too? Soon. But right now, this is what we have available, but we will have something much more user-friendly and interactive so that a person may not, they could be new to Iowa or not familiar with other communities in your area. So we'll have this piece available for people as well. Ed referenced this handout with all the different access points on it. I want you to know this is basically a living document as well. Mary Lou updates this every Friday. She almost pulled an all-nighter putting it together because it has got a lot of detailed information, and we're always cross-matching to make sure that our numbers are correct and accurate. But this information is then placed on our website, iowaworkforce.org, and so you can click on a link there, and every Friday you will see which access points we currently have open and accessible to the public. So this changes every week. We grow at a rate of 15 to 20 new access points every week. And so we're looking for more growth again this week. As I said, we are at 209. And if you look at that, it's in partnership with our actual staffed offices. We have over 230 places right now where Iowans can go to look for services. One thing that was apparent when we started working with our host sites was not that they needed training, they just wanted to be able to see and understand what we were talking about when we mentioned virtual access technology and what a host site would look like and what kind of tools were available on that. I have a staff person, Chris Nellis. I think she may have come to the board meetings before, but she does a go-to-meeting, and we call it a demonstration session, and she does like 2 a week for interested host sites so they can have this interactive opportunity with her where she walks them through the site, explains all the different functionality of what a site looks like, how a user can use it, and it lasts 30 to 40 minutes. If anyone on this board is interested in participating in such an event, I can certainly make that available to you. We can send you an invitation. You can do it from your workplace. You don't have to leave your office at all, and you can do it right on your computer. And we have constant requests for doing this. Almost every host site that we talk to now, we make sure that they know that this is available. And it's answered a lot of questions, and I think it's calmed some concerns and fears about how this thing actually works. So she's doing that. Her next sessions are October 4th at 9 a.m. and October 6th at 1 p.m. So if anyone is interested, please let me know, and I'll make sure that she sends you an invitation, lands right on your calendar, and you'll be able to participate in that as well.
What were those dates again?
October 4th at 9 a.m. and October 6th at 1 p.m. And they last 30 to 40 minutes. It's not a big time-consuming part of the day, and you can do it right on your computer. If you've used GoToTraining or GoToMeeting before, that's what
we also have 2 documents. We've taken a lot of feedback from legislative stakeholders as well as our IWD stakeholders talking about the need for marketing and getting the word out about this technology. We've got 2 documents, and I don't have them here, but I'd be happy to share with anybody if they'd care to follow up with an email. One of the documents is thank you. One of the documents is a brochure that outlines all the different functions IWD can successfully complete with the virtual access point technology. And on the back of the document are all of the different one-stop locations that continue to exist, their hours of operation, as well as their location. So we're starting to get this document out to as many folks as we possibly can. and we're printing the document in Espanol as well to match up with those folks. The two documents I was referencing just a second ago are one-page kind of expectations of what it takes to be a virtual access point, and then an additional document that's multiple pages that's kind of a question and answer to provide a lot of clarity on some of the questions that have come up. And so I'd be very happy to share those with anybody here at any time.
We've talked, I know this came up earlier, I think Francis was the one who suggested that we kind of have a work group that deals with maybe some of our unique customer needs or making sure that other agencies are aware of what we're doing and if they're going to partner with that. So we have taken your request to heart, Francis, and we've been going out and talking to a lot of different groups. For example, we have now federal partners who are participating as the access points. For example, this is an office that I'm sure none of us ever wants to visit, is the Federal Adult Probation Office down at the courthouse. But they are very interested and very excited about having this because people that are on federal probation from federal prison, are supposed to be getting a job and making progress towards their own, so they avoid recidivism and going back. So we've put this technology on the federal probation officers' desktops. So they are using it in a way to track people's progress towards their own plan to stay out of prison. So if someone says, hey, I've been looking for jobs all the time, well, they can look and see what they've been doing, what they haven't been doing. So they were very excited in that. They're also going to put a public kiosk outside of their offices down at the federal courthouse so that people who are on federal adult probation would be able to access that if they don't have a computer of their own. We are also partnered with VA Rehab, which is down in Greer's offices you're on Walnut. So VA Rehab, who is working with veterans who have a service-related disability who are in some training component, they are using it as well. We also have access at the VA hospital here in Des Moines, and we're working at growing some of those partnerships. We were contacted by Dick Freeman from Experience Works, and I know sometimes we think about some of our older partners, maybe the ones with difficulty using this. Dick Freeman runs the Experience Works program, which is for persons over 55, which I think is a very young age anymore. And yes, thank you. And so he has asked us to put this software on his staff's laptops so that as they travel across the state and they're meeting with older workers who are looking for employment, that his staff can use this to assist those people. So we also actually have mobile virtual access points through our partnership with Experience Works. We are working with Jody Jamison, who is the State Director for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and she is helping us partner with County Veterans Affairs offices. They are limited by the nature of their work to dealing only with veterans, but they are happy to partner with this. They put this on their staff computers and in some cases actually in kiosks, depending on the size of their office. Some of these County Veterans Affairs offices are not very large, but they have staff computers. So far we have 19 out of the 99 County Veterans Affairs offices functioning as access points. We have a few locations where the Department of Human Services has gone ahead and established an access point, Boone County being one that comes right to mind. I have given a proposal to the Department of Human Services. It is pending with Wendy Rickman right now for review so that we could be in all of the DHS offices across the state. We also have partnerships with Voc Rehab. Again, because of the nature of their work, they work with people who have a disability that's forcing them to look at a change in their type of work or their training. And so they have it on all their staff computers. And I also learned from David Mitchell just this past week, they've installed it on their own job club computers that they have in their offices. So Voc Rehab clients who are looking for work have access to our software through their own job club. And lastly, our partnership with the National Guard Armories is doing extremely well and is getting a lot of national attention. By no later than the middle of next week, we will have 12 up and running. These are all at wireless sites. There are some technical glitches that Gary Bateman's shop is working through, but we will have 3 at Camp Dodge, and we'll also be in Iowa City, Council Bluffs, Davenport, Fairfield, Fort Dodge, Sioux City, Waterloo, and Cedar Rapids, and Boone. And I know that Teresa has been asked to present information on this unique partnership. It is the only one like it in the United States. And Congressman Braley asked her to come to DC and present a testimony about how we have provided this access and outreach to our veterans as they return from deployment overseas. So those are some of the, another one I guess I failed to mention is the Department for the Blind. We have met with Curtis Chong at the Department for the Blind, and there are some difficulties with some of the software. JAWS is the software that you often hear about for visually impaired people, that speaks to them what you would see on that screen that you'd be talking to them. It doesn't work with some of our software, but we are partnering with the Department for the Blind to figure out a way to make our virtual access software usable by the persons that are visually impaired. And Curtis is partnering with us. He is going to help us explore and identify technologies that will make that work. And so that's a brand new partnership that we just established. And we toured the Department for the Blind's offices recently. I know, I'm talking too much. They have a computer lab. And so they train people on how to use computers. So we need to be able to provide software that addresses their needs.
Very good. As far as we talked about federal probation, we've also got the Iowa Department of Corrections. Director Whaler and I met a couple of times with Director Baldwin and Deputy Director Bartrup with the Iowa Department of Corrections. As you know, they're broken up into regions as well. And Gary Bateman of our IT staff is working with the Iowa Department of Corrections IT staff to get this type of technology to inmates and those on community outposts to be able to utilize it. The single biggest determining factor on whether somebody has recidivism is whether they have a job or not. Everybody here knows that. So we've reached out to them as well. The community colleges and private colleges, if I might, in your board packet there was a sheet that outlines a lot of our different stakeholders. It also on the back has all of our educational institutions. And as Lori indicated, this is very fluid. This document was put together 9/23 of 11. There are a number of educational institutions that have come on board just since that time. We've got a number of the community colleges, specifically Southwestern, Clinton, Indian Hills, Southeastern, Iowa Lakes, North Iowa, Ellsworth, Northwest Iowa, Iowa Central, Hawkeye Community College. But in addition to that, we've been working very stinky with the private colleges and universities. And the first one to install was Buena Vista University with the help of President Fred Moore up in Storm Lake. In addition, Simpson College, Drake University, Luther College, University of Dubuque and President Bullock. And then most recently, as of yesterday, Director Whaler went up and spoke with President Ben Allen up in Cedar Falls. And the University of Northern Iowa has agreed to become a virtual access point as well and help us enhance the technology with some educational components as well. As we talk about regional universities, the University of Iowa Employment Services is starting to utilize this technology in Iowa City. And in addition to that, our Iowa State University extensions, specifically in Dickinson County, O'Brien County, Lyon County, and Osceola County, have the technology put on. Director Whaler and I are very much looking forward to meeting with the new president at Iowa State to see where we can additionally expand within their extension services. So.
Can I just make a mention? Yesterday when we were up in Cedar Falls visiting with Dr. Allen, he was not only focused on the technology, but also on what can his university do to really be a value-added partner with us. And as we talked, and I know all of you may have the question because I regularly get this question about those folks who can't deal with the technology and who are digitally not ready to go in that area. And so one of the things that he offered, and we're exploring now that I think we'll probably be able to move into all sorts of areas, is he offered his students could come to access points and volunteer their time, students in computer science and those kinds of things, so that we could actually then market that at certain times we would have assistants and his students would be the assistants in working through some of the issues people have with working on a computer. He additionally offered that he would be happy to conduct classes at our locations. And the classes would be similar to, I would say, Computers 101, so that we could actually go into perhaps a more formal setting. These classes are obviously accredited by you and I, but offer them during times and at places where we believe we would have a lot of students who would be interested in that. So just that kind of an idea. We're going to obviously pursue in that general region and area, but of course it creates that idea for all the places throughout Iowa. So I'll be pursuing that as well, because one of the niches of concern that we are trying to address and keep moving towards addressing it is the folks that are digitally challenged as far as using a computer.
Very good.
So, Director, did I understand that these are going to be volunteers that are going to assist clients?
No, these are going to be computer science students who will assist with the technology, not who will assist clients. So if somebody does not know how to use a mouse, they will assist in telling them about the technology to be able to use a mouse, click on the right icon,
And currently you're year past, a Iowa workforce employee did that, right?
No, not necessarily. Sometimes they would help them with the data that was inside the machine. Many times they would take the data on a paper document. But this is just helping somebody familiarize themselves with how a computer works. So I would definitely draw a distinction between the two. One is actually helping someone fill out information towards what would be appropriate to put down to get a job, and how do I work my profile and things like that. That is not what this assistance will be. This assistance will be mainly how the keyboard works, how to get into the software and out of the software, that sort of thing.
Which was also formally done by the employer.
Well, I would say perhaps, but that it was never the focus of work for an employee. I was asked to try to find a way to fill the gap of the digitally illiterate, and we've never been able to fill that gap, even with our old system of 55 offices, because these people identify themselves as needing some kind of assistance in computers. And we never had a program, and we never had an assistance process to work with those folks who identify themselves as digitally illiterate.
Well, with respect, I would disagree and believe that that's a violation of the collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think using the resources and establishing these public-private partnerships, and this does not cost state taxpayers any money. It's a use of volunteer time. I think it's a great idea. I'd like to have them help me. I think it's good, so I applaud you for doing that.
In my house. It's
yeah.
keep me going.
You mentioned the private colleges. Are you contacting all of them? Are you asking them to contact you, or are we communicating with them? We reached out to a majority of them. If there are some that haven't heard from us, they certainly enjoy an opportunity to get in front of them. Again, it's my understanding, I believe there's 32 of them total. Some of them have come to us proactively and said, hey, we'd like to have this in all of our libraries and career and counseling services. But with respect to anybody around the state, we'd be happy to have them all.
We've had two specifics encounters with them. One in about, I'm going to say, March kind of time frame, where I spoke to all of their annual, they all came into their annual meeting, and I spoke about this opportunity. Many of their trustees were there as well, and they voted unanimously to be part of this and a partnership. After that, about a month or 6 weeks ago, we had a training class especially focused on all the career counseling they do, and so we sent an invitation to each one of the private colleges to, if they wanted to send one or two or however many folks from their hierarchy that work with career counseling and work with community outreach, those kinds of things. And we did a special training session at 430 East Grand for that. As a result, you know, our calls are kind of going back and forth, and I would guess that probably within another 6 weeks, we'll have them all up and running in some form of fashion.
But I too think it's a great idea. I know our students and many students are looking for community, be involved in community and community service, very important. And the more we can have the students out, maybe assisting in the libraries or wherever the case might be, in helping people understand how the computer works and stuff, I think it's a great project.
Thank you.
Whoever thought the idea to put it at the domestic abuse homes, I noticed those in the list, and there's a huge number of those. And one of the first ones was in Spencer. Yeah, I mean, it was really something we hadn't thought about, but it seemed like so sensible when we heard about it. So,
As I look at this map, I think we're doing a great job in identifying partners and all of those critical places. One of the things I would suggest is also look at geography, because there seems to be some holes that may not line up with that partnership list. So I think we're going to be deliberate about our geography as well, because there's some counties in here that aren't touched by these systems.
And I would like to add to that, Ken. I'm a little partial to Fayette County because that's where I work and live, but we're pretty sparse there. And one of the things that someone mentioned yesterday was if you have sex offenders, they can't go into your library, and they can't go into, well, there's a possibility of using our community college charter school, and they can't go in there. So what are we going to do about that? Because they have to look for a job.
Yeah. We'll have courthouses and things like that, but that's a good point. We need to look at how we can better serve that population.
one part of the, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Ken was first.
Ken had a question.
Your fourth column here talks about whether it's open to the public or not. Is it possible to include like hours of service in there so that when people are looking where they could go, I mean,
That
great to drive
is
to.
actually a subset of a much larger report that has to print out on paper like this, and it has that information.
But we should get that to the board.
We'll get that to you, of course.
I jump on what Ken said about the geography, because my first request or ask was that we look at niches for islands demographically, but also to come back and do the geographic piece of it, because as I see also, we got like Alameda and Winnebago and Adams County, we don't, so far, there's no points of presence there at all, and we need to look at that. My main point though is there a subcommittee or a subgroup that's working on that, and if so, who are those folks? Is there anybody that's identified that's actually doing that? That's working on the
Francis, to be quite candid, we're open to feedback from any IWU stakeholder, and we have heard from many. We've heard from not only board members and legislators, but also folks in other social service agencies, as well as everyday islands that have come to us and said, you know, it would make sense if you think about, so I'm calling it a border-to-border, river-to-river subcommittee at this point. But that being said, we would certainly welcome any feedback that you have on specific spots or
well,
places.
that was I was getting at. If we have folks or if we see something out there, where do we direct it to? Lori or you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Just send us an email. We meet every Tuesday on this to assess, and I usually send out a note to every regional manager, kind of analyzing how many counties you have yet to go into, and I'd like to see more in this or that.
Could you keep us included in that dialogue?
You bet.
If you've got a targeted area, let's say for example, you're looking at Alameda County. Anywhere. I mean, if you're looking at a specific, maybe somebody on the board would have some insight into that particular.
Because I can tell you that we have made a lot of overtures into some communities and some partners that don't want to partner, or they want to wait and see. And so sometimes when it looks like there's a void, I don't want anyone to think it's for lack of our initiative and outreach.
we've got a lot of people that are gonna get back to us. So we have over 900 that are kind of.
Well, I don't need to know who's waiting and who
Yeah,
isn't.
but-
If you just let us know that, hey,
We
we're
will,
looking
and
at.
then if you would just send us ideas, you could get some, just Monday, I was in Macokota with a group of folks, and they had a little bit of a misunderstanding, thinking they could have only one access point, but of course, what I say to people is, I'd like to have 50 in your community, or 100, the more the better. And so they were brainstorming as I was sitting there, to have one in the courthouse and have one here and there. So they're really helping us as we have our trips out every week to do some things like that. So if you guys, any of you folks have ideas, just send us an email and we'll consider.
Well, and if you do the same with us, so that if you're targeting a specific area, we've got people, I mean, I've got access to folks all across this state. And so if you're looking at a specific state or a specific county, I can go back and say, hey, I've got a particular person I'm thinking about in Emmitsburg. I can say, hey, is there anything up there? What are you thinking? And they can kind of kick some information around.
Good idea. One other part of this whole project is the concept of extended hours. And I know we've heard Teresa talk about her experience at the phone company, and we've discovered that her experience at the phone company is coming true here as well. We are open with an 800 number, so this is a no-cost option to people. And this is not just limited to the virtual access points. Anyone can call this number from 8 to 8, Monday through Friday, and from 10 to 2 on Saturdays. And we're discovering that some of the evenings are a little slower, but Saturday morning, that's that day when they used to find out they could install phones, is also a really popular time for people to call us for unemployment claims questions. We are looking at, right now we use the 800 number. We have an instant messaging feature that's maybe a little slower to catch on. Of course, we haven't really promoted it a whole lot yet because as we're growing our network, but we think it will get a lot more popular. And then we're also looking at other types of technology, such as Skype and other sorts of technology where a user can actually see the person at the other end. So, and this is, again, not just the virtual access point. This is just an outgrowth of that project. But we're staffing it right now. It is considered a pilot project because we want to see, we assume people want to talk to us outside of the 8 to 4:30 model. And so we're testing the theory to see if that's true. And so far we're finding out, especially on Saturdays, that it is. Right now the project is staffed primarily with managers and on a volunteer basis if anyone else wants to participate in this. And right now we're focusing on using staff from Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Waterloo, Davenport, Sioux City, and Council Bluffs. Davenport started their shift. Actually, they start tomorrow. Waterloo is finishing up a 2-week shift. So they do it at 2-week increments. So we're just kind of testing different parts of the state. But when someone calls one of these 800 numbers, they're not calling Davenport. They're not calling Waterloo. They're calling the system. They're not calling an office. They're just calling to find out more information. And a lot of the inquiries, I think, are primarily unemployment. Mike could comment on that if there's anything else that you want to add, Mike.
No, just the Unemployment Insurance Service Center is participating in the extended hours pilot as well. In terms of the cost, we're reusing an existing toll-free number that was intended for interstate unemployment insurance benefits. We've changed the queues in there, so we're not increasing our overhead as a result of that, other than any additional traffic that we have on it. So, but no, I agree with everything we have said.
Another thing that we're repurposing is a lot of our old computer equipment. We're repurposing the phone number. We had a lot of computer equipment that was out of date that wouldn't necessarily work within our centers for our staff to use. But we've been able to reprogram it, repurpose it, and we're able to loan it to host sites. So if a host site doesn't have a computer that they can use for this product, we're able to loan them to them and let them use that. And so right now, I think we've got about 100 of those that have gone out. And we've been able to kind of clean out some of our offices and get rid of some of this backlog and storage, and also keep these computers out of the landfills and other places where they'll be for probably eternity. But that's been very helpful to use that equipment as well. Ed reference here is packet already, and we've already talked about a lot of the different host sites. We've got, as the colleges we mentioned, as your extension, we are in some Native American centers, Goodwill, Chambers of Commerce. But if anything is essentially accessible and available to be a host site. We'd like them to be open to the public. We'd like them to be open their hours, not ours. And we'd like them to be able to turn the computer on and off. And that's about it.
Just before the concern gets raised, those extra hours are staffed by staff of the workforce system.
They're all state employees, primarily managers.
And they're not on overtime. Welded into.
Just want to make sure we're clear that people who are asking for service are getting it from state employees.
Yes, they are. We are not asking them. This is strictly limited to state employees. A couple things that we just, and I want to.
Please do, talk about usage.
Well, I want to talk about usage, but I want to throw out one other thing. This is our you have seen our host site. We've shown it at meetings before, but it keeps growing and evolving. And one thing that we just added that I was able to show Greer just this morning is we added a link to the host site for all the information about registered apprenticeship. And promoting that as an opportunity. And we also added the link on our agency website that promotes green jobs as good employment opportunities. And so we keep adding things to it, trying to make sure that we're getting information out, that promoting employment opportunities to Iowans. This is all, at the end of the day, about helping people get back to work. So we just added some of those things. As we mentioned, we do track usage on a weekly basis, and the numbers just continue to grow and grow. We'll have another report out by tomorrow, and we have yet to see it step back. It just grows every week. And this past week, we actually broke a record for traffic. Gary can explain a little bit about how you track that data and what you're tracking.
Right now, at all the virtual access sites, we're only tracking how many people use the services or how many services are used. We don't have the ability to know if 10 people came in and used one service or one person came in and used 10 services. It's services in general. We did that on purpose so that we didn't scare anyone off. You can come in and use the services without having to authenticate, put in a user ID and a password. So that was done on purpose. We've rethought that a couple of times, and the jury's still out on it, but right now that's the way we do it.
But in the future, we're going to, soon in the future, we're going to be to also count from which machines the services are being used. So that we will know that a certain access point has this kind of volume, or none at all. And then kind of reassess, I don't know that we turn anybody down at this point, but there will be a time when we'll want to see where there's more traffic and where there's less. And so shortly we'll be able to actually track from each computer how much usage each one is.
Very good. I think your question, Senator Downs.
Yes, just a couple things. Ben Allen's a good friend of mine. He's out of the box thinker, and I appreciate his efforts to, suggest that those students help out. But if you look at where a student goes to school and take your circle that we have here for Blackhawk County, there's only 14 dots that are covered in that. So when you say you've been having trouble with trying to get individuals who have this digital divide upgraded, that isn't going to cut it. I mean, it's a good start. There might be some concerns about, Greg offered about dealing with contractual issues, and that's something else. But we really got to figure out a way to do a better job of dealing with this, and because first of all, most of those students we have happen to, Blackhawk County happens to have a one-stop, so they can go in there and get the help they need. Whereas if you're up in Decorah or other parts of the state in western Iowa where it's pretty thin, those students aren't going to drive to western Iowa to help out. And so, I didn't think that you were inferring that, but I'm just saying that it might be a start, but it's not adequate to deal with what the problem is.
Correct, and I agree with you. The reason it's a start is because it's an idea that we can utilize. I'll tell you about another idea that we're utilizing. It's very different, but it's an outgrowth of a community seeing that they have a need, and that is I've been spending a lot of time in Storm Lake and in Denison because of the nature of their community, the challenges they have, not only around digital literacy, but just literacy in general. Storm Lake is a community of about 10 or 12,000 people, and they have 26 languages there. And their community population is about 30% Caucasian and 70% a wonderful mix of diverse cultures and people. And of course, the challenge there is communication, getting the folks to work, and of course the companies wanting to always have a steady labor stream. So as we were going through the process, and we'll soon be transitioning to Storm Lake office, we've been having many meetings, and the interesting development that Storm Lake has done, I think this will probably be a model for the country, is we had at the table the major businesses like Sara Lee and Meridian and Tyson, and we had schools, community colleges as well as private colleges, and high schools. The chamber, we were at the table, and the whole issue is what can Storm Lake as a community define to help bridge their gap? And we ended up helping them form a fiscal agency called Storm Lake United. It is run by the businesses. It is not owned by IWD. We are a partner. We have a role to play, and our role to play is to help facilitate their technical need for grant writing and that sort of thing. And their idea is to be an employee community group, like we have other ECI groups throughout the state. And then actually define where the training needs are. They will be funding that themselves. They will be housing those things themselves. And we are facilitating that as really the entry into state government. So if they'd like us to check at the Department of Education or Economic Development or DHS or any number of places that communities work within state government, that's also our task. And they're brand new at this, and we're brand new at this. But after about a year and a half, we do have a timeline where they will become what has been defined as a self-directed community. It's defined in a lot of the NCRC and NAM certification skills processing, so their community will be able to attract labor, and their businesses will be able to have a steady labor force, but know that they can expand in Storm Lake, and they don't have to worry about going to some other state to expand their services. So they're quite new at this, and it's really refreshing to see that a community that had this kind of a need, after we got past the phase of we're probably not providing enough in our old system of delivery to them anyway at this point in time. And so we're partnering with them to define a whole new way to attract the issues of people getting to work and work being there for people, and training. And so they've really taken upon themselves to develop this and put the model together. I think that I know we have the core shell defined and voted into, and we have a chairperson for the group, and we meet with them almost every week to make sure that this gets off and running and going well. So there might be another extreme of how you get training to communities, not only in the issues of digital literacy, but just being able to get GEDs and enough English so that they can speak in the workplace and understand their jobs. And that model, I tell you, I would like to bring it to you, maybe the next board meeting or the one after that, only to demonstrate the opportunity that I think we have with each community, because each community is different. Like I I was mentioning I was in Macopa, and they have some needs now that the Macopa office is transitioning out, and we're working with them and Mike Litt from Davenport, and we're going to do some bridging and traveling things to make sure that their groups of businesses and their groups of people within the community understand how they can get our help and our assistance as well to get jobs. And so we're doing this in a lot of different communities, those who, and they all come up with a different solutions for themselves, and that's what I think is really great because they are all different kinds of communities. So we're participating with each one of those communities as well. That's why we're usually on the road.
Okay, well, I'm glad to see that you're looking at some other things. And just one more thing before I have to leave. I've been on this board for 16 years and as a legislator and a couple of years when it was a workforce development council. We approve agendas. We've always been flexible about the order. I understand the board chair's prerogative on that, and I just want to express my displeasure of not having an opportunity to participate in the discussion on the role of the board. So thank you.
Okay, and to conclude this segment of the, Eugene?
Yes, I do have a comment. When you talk about using volunteers, I know a lot of people would think on one level, that's really a marvelous, wonderful thing. But
Sure.
what you have to remember about that is that Social Security numbers are involved, and you have no control over who it is that's going to be sitting there helping a person. You know, being at a nonprofit, we have a very hard time really sometimes employing volunteers because of the confidential nature of the information. So that's one thing as you go along. You want to be very careful about how you look at the role of volunteers. You probably don't want them looking at information for people's files.
That's a very good piece of feedback, Gene, and should certainly be noted in minutes. In conclusion on this, but go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Just one other thing, and I totally agree with you. You know, I didn't mean to think that the colleges were the solution.
No.
You know, but I think it's one avenue we could look at, and even the high schools. We've got over 350 school districts across the state now. Sioux City is not a big deal because we're a regional location, but many of the rural areas. I'm talking to our superintendent schools a week ago, and they're always looking even at the high school for community service projects for the kids and stuff. So that maybe is another avenue in more of the rural areas with the high schools that are around that area. But I understand we need to be sensitive to what they have access to and what they look at.
And that certainly leads me into my last thoughts, and that's simply that what's next? That's a very plausible question. What's next for this? Our goal in 2012 is to get ourselves and get this technology into the 359 school districts across the state, in addition to parochial and private institutions as well. I talked a little bit about 544 libraries, but again, 359 school districts is paramount. We've already got Denison and some other superintendents that are very pleased to have their career and counseling services people within the schools utilize this technology. And again, as noted, October 17th, Director Whaler will be headed to Washington, D.C. to testify in front of a Veterans Affairs full committee, and she will be the guest of Representative Bruce Braley from up in Northeast Iowa. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us on this, and we appreciate any feedback that we can garner. But one last thing I do want to leave you with is that in enhancing this technology, one of the things that we want to do is put practice tests and other types of training options on this. NCRC, OPAC, GED, SATs, ACTs. So again, this is a living, breathing piece of software that's going to continue to expand with the list of options. And so again, as noted, the feedback that you all provide is very much appreciated.
It reminds me of one of the conversations we had in Storm Lake with the Storm Lake United is that we are going to be in their high schools shortly, and we are working with agencies currently to use us and Storm Lake specifically as a pilot location for their translation of their ACT test. think they were gonna have to do this, but since so many different states were calling, we're gonna participate with them, and they are gonna be able to facilitate 11 languages. And with 11 languages, the data tells us we will then be able to cover about 80 to 85% of those folks who are challenged with their language because they come from a different area of the world. And so we're pretty excited about that, so that we can facilitate our software and our virtual access points with actually a language translation for us to be able to work with those folks who need different languages.
Director, if I can, I'd like to follow up with what Jean just mentioned about the confidentiality factor, which is very important here. And there is a past history of replacing employees with volunteers. When we talk about saving tax dollars, that arbitration costs the state of Iowa, I have no idea how many hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm still not seeing, in my mind, a difference between a volunteer, as you call them, and a person that we have laid off who does this on a professional, knowledgeable, expertise level. And now we're talking, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but now we're talking about bringing in high school students? No, this is just getting out there. And I understand Computer 101, I didn't interrupt you. I understand Computer 101 and being helpful in that, the lack of computer experience. But I'm not, I've got just a few quick notes that I wrote down here. Some private colleges, they want to assist with career counseling, students to assist with the computers. That's what these 100 people that got layoff notices did. And maybe you know that I'm not really good at changing my mind, but that's the way I see this. I still got over 100 people out. Whether we can maintain the so-called bricks and mortar, whatever. And I see this map, and all I hear is about how it's growing so much. I don't see that as a good thing. I see that as, when you tell me we got more people using it than we ever had before, I don't see that as creating 200,000 jobs. I see that as we're going down in the opposite direction. If we got more people coming out wanting to look for work and wanting to find work, and instead of doing what we need to do is to create work. Over 3,000 jobs in the last, quarter in this state. I read an article in the paper, I think it was yesterday, about food assistance at a record level, and they're telling people are out of jobs. So I don't see this program's working so good because we've got so many people using it. I would think this program is working so good because less people are using it. That means we've got people working. And I guess I believe that, and I do have some experience with a thing called the green thumb, which you might want to look into. You put a volunteer in there and you know where we're going to go. And that's, we're going to do what we have to do. I'm sure you're going to do what you have to do. If there's a volunteer in there, we're going to have problems. Not only with confidentiality, you can't control them, you have no discipline factor over them, you have no control. And that is a scary, especially confidentiality. Looking into that is very scary. Because these people are not only talking about Social Security numbers, they're talking about, well, I have a disabled member of the family, and it's this, and it's that. And that's just, I just don't see that door being a really viable operation.
Well, the only thing I would clarify, and I appreciate your input, Fred, but the only thing I would clarify is we're not going to deploy this into high schools so we can have high school volunteers. We're going to deploy this into high schools so that young adults can be cognizant through their high schooling about the kind of job skills the business requires. require, why they have to take this course or that course to master a certain level of logical thinking, and parents can also understand what businesses are asking for, and that's the purpose of deploying this in through the high school system. The other item you mentioned, though, is very accurate. One of our biggest tests will be to see the numbers go down, because when numbers go down, that means that more people are employed. Interestingly enough, though, what this helps us with is on the eastern side of the state, about 3 weeks ago, we had a panic call from several companies that they had lots of job openings and nobody would come in and apply for them. And so we, of course, were working to get applicants and did a lot of things to help this segment of businesses. Went out and had a meeting with them, and you know, they were just very interested in, of course, getting the job match, but the criticality of that was they couldn't fill these 15 or 20 jobs. They were going to be moving some jobs to their Georgia plant, because they have absolutely no problems in Georgia getting applications into the room. And so Greer came with us and several others to open up some new ideas that they hadn't thought of for employment, and they included a lot of the apprenticeship stuff. And I know you've had additional contact since then, putting them together with that. So virtually anything that helps our communications with people that create jobs and then people that are really looking for jobs to get them matched to jobs. We tend to see that as the overall mission. But yes, in the long term, I'd like to have a lot fewer people using it, because that would mean that our unemployed groups are employed now. So I understand what you're saying.
One thing I'd like to piggyback, if I may, on that is a lot of the people we deal with are not unemployed. They're underemployed and possibly looking for a different job. And Access Point gives them a place that maybe they can go outside of our regular work hours to look at other job opportunities. And so I'd like to see, you know, we want to get people employed at their a skill level that is appropriate for them and probably pays at a level which they're comfortable and happy with. So that's another segment. So I long focused on that. I want this agency and our work to be employment based and not unemployment based. And so sometimes I think we lose sight of the fact that not everyone we're dealing with is unemployed.
It seems to me that all resources that help those Iowans who are underemployed or unemployed understand the digital world is critical for them to have a sustainable job, because it just isn't the same workplace anymore. And so I think we're going to have to take a few risks in that regard to make sure that we're moving the needle on digital literacy to help these people, because if we're just going to keep them where they are now, they probably will not have sustainable employment long term. So I'm sure we'll have to apply for taking at least some risk, some thought about different programs that might address that issue in the context of the law and the workforce agreements they have with employees, that kind of thing. But we've got to take some risks, so we're not going to have a workforce that can meet the needs of our employers. I hear it every day in my chamber, so we got to keep pushing the envelope a little bit in that regard.
That's a good point, yeah.